Action stars don't get much cooler than James Bond, but with so many actors playing Sir Ian Fleming's super spy over the last 37 years, of course, we're all going to have our favorites. Now, in anticipation of next week's release of Casino Royale, we determine once and for all which Bond is the best. The experts are here. The opinions are heated. Let's get into it. Shaken, not stirred. It's The Loop. That was a sample of why I'll never be a Bond, I'm sorry. Joining us to help us make sense of it all from Los Angeles, IGN Movies senior editor and resident James Bond expert, Jim Viveda is here. And also from the City of Angels, Kevin Kelly, blogger for Cinematical and TV Squad. Gentlemen, welcome to The Loop.
Thank you.
I don't know how heated this is going to be here because it seems like I chat with everybody about, who's your favorite Bond. A lot of people always go Connery, but let's start off with what actually makes a good Bond. Kevin, is there a checklist or a criteria?
Yeah, of course there's a checklist that was totally established by Connery. You have to look good, you have to look sexy, and you have to pull it off really well. You have to be arrogant, almost to the point of being too arrogant, cocksure.
Well, so far you've described me. Is there anything that makes Bond particularly Bond?
Just the ability to pull it off and look like you know what you're doing. There's so many people that can try to do that, but they just don't look like they're as suave as Connery. Even some of the other Bonds pulled it off pretty well, but Connery just set the bar for looking like he knew what he was doing under fire.
Jim, what do you think?
Two schools of Bond. You have your Frank Sinatra Bonds and you have your Dean Martin Bonds. They're similar, but they're different. Connery and Craig are your Sinatra Bonds, and Pierce Brosnan, Roger Moore, they're your Dean Martin Bonds.
Now, people do chat about Brosnan from time to time, but it seems that lately this debate comes down to Sean Connery versus Roger Moore. Now, is that because they play the two different types of Bonds, or is it because they had the most memorable films? Was it just the copy?
I think it's just the sheer amount of time that they spent in that role. Timothy Dalton only had a couple of years. Lazenby had one film. And each one of them, Moore, Connery, and Brosnan, are the Bonds of their generation. So it's whoever you grew up with, really.
Kevin, your thoughts on that? Is it just screen time?
Yeah, that's exactly true. I mean, both Connery and Moore have the sheer number of films completed, and Roger Moore actually has the most of any of the actors. He's done one film more than Connery did. They had Lazenby in between them, but because they were back-to-back, and one was the original, and the next one was the guy who kind of broke out of that mold and established the character a little differently than Connery did, Those are the ones that people tend to identify with.
Isn't this a little unfair to Pierce Brosnan, though? Because, I mean, the guy did play his role well, but some people say he just didn't have the greatest films to work with. Granted, he does have one of the highest grossing Bond films ever, but some say if he had the earlier films to work with, he would be the quintessential Bond.
Well, true. He is a great Bond that never got a chance to be in a great Bond movie, but any actor would tell you that no actor owns a role. They only rent it for a while. And so, there'll be another guy after Daniel Craig, too.
So let's talk about Daniel Craig here. The new Bond, some people were worried. Some people said the guy can't even drive a stick shift. How can he convincingly pull off Bond on the silver screen? Kevin, are you worried at all?
I'm pretty worried about Daniel Craig pulling it off. One of our other writers at Cinematical has seen the film, and he said Sean Connery has nothing to worry about as the top spot, as the top Bond. Daniel Craig, he's a great actor. Layer Cake was a fantastic movie from the past year. He had great roles in Road to Perdition and Munich. But as far as James Bond goes, from the trailers, it just doesn't look like he has that Bond thing. And we know from some of the lines in the trailer, he's tending to be a little more emotional than Bond has been. And that's something that's it's going to be interesting to see how that sits with most people.
We want a cold hard Bond that uses and discards the ladies and can drive the... What's up, Kevin? Your thoughts?
Well, actually...
I'm sorry, Jim.
Daniel Craig he's being asked to do different things than other Bonds have been asked to do. He's being asked to play a human being rather than just some superhero. And in that capacity, I saw the film last weekend. I really liked it. He's solid. He's a solid James Bond. He's got a bit of Connery, a bit of Timothy Dalton, which a lot of purists, a lot of people who read the books and love the books, always thought Dalton was a good Bond. But Craig, it is an uphill battle. It's divisive. I mean, some people are just not going to be totally nuts about him.
Well, that's good to hear. And you know what? At least he bleeds in this one. The Terminator even bled in that he was a machine. So I'm glad that Bond is finally bleeding a bit in the films. I want to thank you, Kevin and Jim, for keeping us in the loop there.
Thank you.
Folks, Sean Connery made James Bond the icon that he is today. And no matter who gets cast to replace him, they're always going to fall short of that mark. Who cares if Craig is the best Bond? We just want a good flick, not another rehash of Die Another Day.
It's your life.
Your life.
It's your show.
Your show.
An all-new Attack of the Show. Weeknights at 7 p.m. Only on G4.